the topic really is around innovation, and this session really about talking about innovation that each of us do and the different facets of it that we'll try and cover. So maybe Sumanta, I'll start off with you, right? And I think with profitability being the mantra for everyone around over the last few months and maybe the entire this year and next year, how has that really impacted innovations, and what are some of the things that you're still doing in spite of some of these challenges?
So a lot of things have changed post the pandemic. So profitability, you've seen, the checks written by VCs have sort of dried up. So that has sort of reinforced the need for brands to become more and more profitable so that they have a longer runway, and it builds a sustainable business. So everybody had a long, hard look, because when you look at the balance sheets of each of the company, marketing has a very heavy cost there. So basically, they have like heads like branding and performance and everything. So everybody has looked at long and hard and seeing that how can we increase, the bang for the buck or the ROI. That has been the focus post that. And so technology has kept in, and people have tried to increase the LTV or lifetime value. So, and keeping the customer acquisition cost in control. So that is the magic mathematics which every brand is figuring out. If I have a certain customer acquisition cost, and how quickly can I recover and become profitable, rather than strategy. If I go back back in 2012 in OYO days, you acquire customer, you don't even think of profitability. Go grow the market, grow the supply, grow the demand, and then we'll figure out like how to make it profitable. So that has been the mantra, and within the span of 5 to 6 years, things have changed upside down. Now we're speaking about profitability, LTV, engagement, because LTV is something that you drive over a period of time. You can't do, I've done things, say, and suddenly my LTV improves. It's a journey. So it's a customer from the acquisition to like their purchases and the repeat purchases going on. So it is the relationship building journey that has taken the precedence over just acquiring and forgetting about it. So that is what I have seen is the paradigm shift that has happened, in a span of 5 to 6 years, from a VC funded, hyper VC funded, SoftBank funded company to Gameskraft, which is a profitable, bootstrap so-called company. So that is what I have seen as a change in the industry.
No, absolutely, and I think one of the few startups that are profitable and continue to kind of grow that. So great to hear that. Manisha, maybe over to you, right? And I think there's been a lot of innovation, a lot of new things on the creator side of the space, and even brands and in Gameskraft included do a lot of work with creators, right? And I know Advertising Standards Council has actually released a lot of pieces around that. So, and a lot of innovations do require guardrails, which is what you've been doing. Do you want to talk a bit about what have been the learnings and what are the guardrails? And I know you've received some great feedback from the industry as well. So maybe touch a bit upon what are the guardrails for innovation that we put around?
Yeah, sure. I think principally I feel that the what applied to, let's say, even traditional marketing and innovation as we've seen over the years is not very different from the principles that apply from a consumer protection or from a trust building point of view, even to newer businesses which may be much more digital first. I think for any brand, what you need to build is consumer trust. And that comes from being authentic and honest as brands in terms of what you're communicating, and therefore it does not matter whether you're big or small. I think the only difference that we saw, and again, we've now seen it for a while, and therefore there is a shift, is that I think in that mad frenzy for consumer acquisition, which was probably coming a lot from VC funding, we did see a lot of brands kind of crossing the line and promising things that they could not deliver, or it's everything to get the consumer in, and then we'll kind of figure out life later. And I think we've now seen the cycle where those brands have not done well, and that eventually that is not a sustainable way of brand building. And I think so to my mind, I think that's the principle to keep in mind, saying that the brand building is not a short-term game. If you are here for the long term, you're not just here for the next round of funding, right? I mean, as brands, you need to survive, for much longer periods of time, and therefore, again, what are the sustainable ways of building brands? So that's one. I think the other is just in terms of digital communication, where lines between, I think, content and what is advertising are very, very blurry. And I think, again, the principle to keep in mind is saying that, for an average consumer, I mean, let's not just think of the brands that we own, but, all of us are consumers, and, we kind of subscribe to several brands, and we are all, online buying brands. that you don't want to feel that you've been taken advantage of or that you've been misinformed. So when it is an ad, to clarify that it is commercial communication, so we brought out our influencer guidelines, for example, about a year and a half ago. And again, the idea is saying that let the consumers take an informed decision after knowing that this is a piece of commercial communication. And today, I think even when we talk of things like online trust, I think there was a time when we felt that commerce is the opposite of trust, and the moment you're selling something, there is automatically a layer of mistrust that consumers bring in. And I think today that's no longer the case. As consumers, all of us are on the online space actually looking for things to buy and looking for more information on brands. And I think so long as that is done authentically and without misinforming the consumer, I think that in fact is a great way to build trust. So I would say that the principles are not very different, but just I think the format of digital advertising sometimes makes it certainly very challenging for us as regulators to even identify content that is advertising.
No, absolutely. I was just seeing the tech piece that
would
you
like,
released as well. Yes, go ahead.
I would like to second Manisha, because gaming has been quite a discussed subject over fast periods of time. So, and our teams have worked pretty closely. And what value that ASCI has been able to imbibe in all of us in the heading a marketing for a real money gaming brand. So basically, say what is right for the customer. So that has been that has been what Manisha and team has been always been advocating and saying tell what is right. And we have sort of learned and so the communication etc. over the period of time, as she correctly pointed out, has always been on the side what you can deliver and what you actually do. So keep it to that. Don't extend it too much.
No, absolutely. And I think Ameer actually touched upon this briefly as well in his initial talk of we need to build trust with real products, with products that consumers love, and that's the base of it, right? Marketing and advertising is to make sure people know what that is, but it cannot missell. And I was just seeing the recent one that we released on education, and I think it's great to go deeper into some of these industries and actually detail out what is fair and what is not, right? And I think that's great
and
to
I
see.
think if I may just add to that, I think one of the things as ASCI that we have been very cognizant of is that we don't just want to be the policeman on the other side of the signal waiting to catch you when you get it wrong. So we'll do that, of course, when you get it wrong, but I think we are also trying to help industry get it right. And that is really in a utopian world, there would be no need for ASCI, right? I mean, because every person who's making an ad knows the right way of making an ad and is not misselling. But I think we are trying to build capacity within the industry to get things right. And the EdTech report, for example, that you just mentioned, so focuses on the EdTech sector, which has been under a lot of scrutiny from different groups of people. And I think the idea is, again, we've done that collaboratively with industry to examine what are some of the issues, what could be corrective factors, and what could be just more responsible advertising, even if it does not cross that line of, so guidelines and regulation is just, I mean, if you cross that line, it is a no-go, it's unacceptable. But within the vast realm of what is acceptable, there is a way to still be more progressive, more responsible, and how do we work with nudge industry to do that as well. So I think that's one of the attempts that we are investing a lot of time and effort into that.
No, absolutely. The way we look at it is you still need to be creative, you still need to be innovative, but be real and be natural and be fair to everyone. Absolutely. Arthy, coming to you, right? And I know you already covered the session, but maybe can you touch upon marketing automation still is an area where brands haven't really capitalized on it, and that is, at least for us, we're seeing that as the next wave of personalization, next wave of innovation that brands need to embrace. What are some of the best case practices of
action in the loyalty space? And it's no longer about swiping your card, earning a point and going and redeeming it for another artifact, but it's more about personalized experiences. It's more about how do I become part of the community. I think in one of the panel members spoke about like cult, right? The fitness community is driving that loyalty and really bringing in that experience. So these are some of the things that we're seeing in the MarTech space, especially based on the kind of interactions that we're having with the customers.
Yeah, so I think the silos piece is very interesting. In fact,
Yes.
we're working with one of our brands where we're trying to integrate the customer service piece with the brand piece and the performance piece and try to bring that together, because like you rightly said, the customer is actually hearing three different things
Correct.
Because there are 3 different teams actually trying to design communication for it, right? And it doesn't need to be like that.
Exactly.
And yes, you need technology, but you also need to stitch that message and
Message
communication
together.
to really bring that to life. No, absolutely. This is a question to all of you, and anyone of you can go first. Is where do you find that source of inspiration, where the innovation, right? What should you do next? What should you do which is different in the spaces that each of you are in, right? And where do you find that inspiration?
So basically, when you deal with things at a day-to-day basis, there are a lot of challenges that pop up. So there are for me at a level, the challenges are the inspiration. So these are the issues that our players are facing on a day-to-day basis, and these are the issues that our partners are facing. These are there are challenges from all sides. It's just not our players; it's our banking partners, it's our advertising partners. So basically, when we look at it, there are multiple dimensions to any issue that you see here. So we look at how can we make this better is there something we can do with our payment partners so that because whenever there is a monetary transaction, there is a lot that goes through that, right? Can we make our can we help our banking or partners to make the transaction a little more safe? Can they give us some data which is allowed in the realm of whatever data privacy laws we have to make everything a little safer for them? Maybe how can we make a communication safe for everyone? So basically, when we look at those challenges, and then we the first level of the challenges is 1,000 feet overview. When you drill deeper, then you see that okay, this has got 3 facets, that's got 5 facets, and then gradually some are very up there to solve for, and some you need to innovate and think and realign and get into that. So basically, when we drill down into those challenges that I see at a daily level, and there is where the innovation comes from. Here is a challenge nobody has solved. Can we solve this there?
Sure. You look at the day-to-day life and sort of.
Yeah. So.
Right.
Yeah, well, I think in some way, I think inspiration also comes from just stepping back and actually trying and understanding why you are there. I mean, why are you doing the work that you're doing? And I think that tends to bring a lot of clarity in terms of what you're seeking. So, I mean, for us as regulators, right? I mean, we can step back and a lot of people perceive us to be, and we are partly that we are the advertising police in a sense. But if I step back and say what is really self-regulation about, it is the fact that someone who's making an ad at a particular point of time knows the broad boundaries of what is right and what is not right, and how do I therefore, as an organization or as a system, deliver that. So I think for us, that becomes a key kind of point to seek inspiration for what we can become as an organization. But I think also, the whole landscape of brands and consumer work is just so fascinating, so interesting. It is the consumers who are moving at such a rapid pace today. And I think the other thing for us to remember is that today what we call a consumer is not just the way a consumer, it's not that they are just sitting waiting to consume things, right? I mean, they are also producing content. They are, in a sense, producers and creators in their own right.
Yes.
They are co-creating a lot of things with people. So I think just kind of tuning in to the larger aspect of who this consumer is. And, for example, even, so we did a brand influencer summit recently, and one of the findings from our report was also that how are you using all these pieces in your ecosystem? And an influencer typically is used as a last mile communicator. But gosh, they can be a fascinating source of insights for product development, right? I mean, because they know what's working or what's not working. Think of them as maybe hyper consumers of some sort. So I think it's really tuning into your ecosystem, and looking at consumers not just in very narrow ways, but in broad ways in terms of how they're evolving. And just one other thing that I would like to add, and this may not necessarily be a source of inspiration, but just something to be kind of cautious or cognizant of, is that when you create communication, it is not just consumers who are watching you. It is a much larger ecosystem that is also something that you're kind of catering to. So I think those are the kind of things where there's just so much interesting stuff going around in the whole marketing arena and in the consumer arena to for all of us to kind of take cognizance of and build into the future.
No, absolutely. Arthy, yeah.
Can you hear me? Yeah. I want to start with a very cheesy line. मैं खुद की favorite हूँ. So probably as an organization, obviously customers are the inspiration, and I totally agree with him, right? Like what are their challenges, what are their problems, and kind of going back to the drawing board and coming out with solutions based on the need of the time. So if you see, Salesforce is very robust on innovation. So whenever we actually talk to our customers about our products, the first thing we tell them is we have a very robust product roadmap. So while we are talking about a few features today, there is a lot more that's happening behind the scene, and by the time you'll end up implementing things, there would be 10 other additional things that is going to come in, which is going to make things much better for you. But I think personally, every time I talk to a customer, whenever they were talking about any kind of marketing challenges or digital transformation, I always put myself in their shoes, at least as both on the business side and on the consumer end side, and think about how would I want to be treated here, or what is it that I would expect from this brand. So whenever we are doing any kind of solutioning or ideation, you always want to put yourself out there and see what is it that you would like. So yeah.
Not really. I think that's something we've done actually recently in the social media. That we need to be in front of customers, and that's where you get insights on what's next and what can you do differently. So great to see that. I have one last question, then maybe we'll take a couple from the audiences. There's a lot been spoken about AI and in the context of how that's helping us do things that we couldn't imagine before and drive innovation from different angles. How have you used it? Where do you see that going in your own spaces? And maybe I know there is AI built into one of the
Yes.
Salesforce, so maybe you can touch upon that. But
Sure.
Manisha and Sumanta, how have you used it personally as well? How would you see that impacting what you do?
I'll start with a personal note. So when you travel, the worst part is planning an itinerary. So you sit down and write. It's the worst. I hate planning an itinerary, and unfortunately, I am given that job. So basically, this time when I was given that job, I outsourced it to the AI. They did a fantastic job of it. Six different AIs I checked and just tallied, and my job was done in half an hour, which used to be like 2 hours of Google search, 3 hours of filling Excels, and then 1 hour of argument with wife. All that taken care of. So
That's great. That's a great idea actually.
Yeah. So I don't know which should I value more, but yeah, so you say. So that saved me a lot of time and effort and conflict management. I'll not delve much there. So basically, so that's on a personal level, and on the professional front, we use a lot of AI for a lot of content generation, because content is the king, has been said, and ad nauseam it has been repeated once. And so we look at content AI still is at a very nascent stages. When you look at generic content, you get a lot of content. When you look at a very specific sort of a content, there is sort of now where I see the AI not going in the right direction. But it should not be long before we do that. Yes. So we have started to compare our content written by humans vis-a-vis what's written in AI. So when you read our website, there will be certain pieces of content that is from humans, which are human writers, and certain pieces from the AI as well. So we did a blind test. We asked people to read it and tell us what do they feel about it. And the comments that came in were almost the same, for the AI as well as the human writer. The reader couldn't figure out that this part looks to be a little sketchy. Maybe have you used AI or not. So people could not even figure out that this was not written by a human being. This was an AI. So basically, that content creation is something that will move to AI, because you can't have a huge content team there. And also, the communication part, where is it display visual communication? That is also something we are experimenting with, and so that we get the communication right within all frameworks that is there. So I think all the visual, video, and communication going forward for us will gradually be moving into the AI realm things.
You can probably put ASCI approved guidelines. Get me a creative out. Yeah, maybe.
There are friends, so.
Yeah.
No,
so
thanks. Yes.
Yeah, so I think AI, in fact, has played a very significant role in the last couple of years at ASCI. We have deployed it to actually study ads in the digital world, using certain. So we first deployed it when we were looking at influencer marketing and trying to look at content that sounded commercial but did not have disclosures, right? I mean, so we kind of deployed. So we tied up with a French company, and they deployed AI software for us. And so we started with looking at influencer content, but then very soon actually we've now moved it to brand content, and I can say that has really kind of shaped the way that we are looking at digital, just all the advertising that's happening on digital. I think it's just not humanly possible to, I mean, even with AI, finally it's not possible to track everything that happens, but at least we are able to be very nimble about it. We are able to prioritize certain categories even on a day-to-day basis. That today I want to track this category, 2 days from now I want to track this category. So it's kind of given us, I think, that agility and nimbleness to track what's happening in the digital world. So for us, that's been a very important thing. But I think, yes, I think like all organizations, we are curious, and even as individuals, we are curious as to what it can do for us. Today we are, as you're saying, to plan whether it's itineraries, and sometimes, we're looking at small content creation. Okay, you write a poem on ASCI and we put that into ChatGPT and it gives us some wonderful kind of poems. But I think that will become more and more central to what we are doing today. We are, I think, just dabbling with it on the periphery to do things which are interesting. But I think maybe even a year down the line, we'll be doing things which are probably very core to our everyday living. So it'll be an interesting world.
Oh, great. So more efficiency and productivity at this point,
For
but
us.
lots more to explore.
And on the Salesforce side, I think, like you exactly said, all of our products have a layer of artificial intelligence inbuilt. So from a marketer's perspective, the products that we have, which is around personalization, marketing automation, we have a very strong element of AI which really gives them the insights specifically to that module. So for example, on the personalization side, the AI would give you, we call them as Einstein recipes, right? What is the kind of content you need to show to this cohort of people? What is the next best recommended product that you need to show? So all of those things to from based on whatever the objective is, how do you kind of go back and optimize whatever that you're trying to do, and also kind of ensure that you are able to deliver that experience that you're looking for, which is very, very relevant. So it plays a very important role in terms of giving you back insights that you can act upon and go back and kind of focus on continuous improvement. And on the ChatGPT side, I think Salesforce last week launched our Einstein GPT, which is again focused on productivity and efficiencies to kind of help our sales teams and service teams to kind of make their communication and how they serve customers much more efficiently. Yeah.
Oh, great. We've started using it for content creation as well, and I think some interesting experiments there. Personally, I think I've actually been using it to kind of solve the bigger question we have as an organization and as an entrepreneur, and actually surprisingly gives a fairly good answer. So I think even for things that you don't know who to talk to or who to ask that question, I think ChatGPT gives you some really cool direction and answers. So thanks for that. We probably have time for one or two questions if somebody has questions for any of the panelists. Yes, can we get a mic? Yeah, it's coming from behind you.
Just a quick question. So from your experience, what's been an innovation that stood out for you? Maybe you have created it or you have seen it, from your experience. I think there's a wealth of experience sitting over there. So what's the one innovation that stood out for you and said, wow, this is a game changer?
Sumanta, Manisha,
So, yeah.
if you want to take this.
So I'll take this first. So basically UPI has something which is innovation that has a game changer for a lot of people, and it has been for us as well. So when there is money involved, people are anxious about it. So UPI has given you the channel to be cost effective about it, because IMPS existed prior to that as well. But at a business level, IMPS costs you more than a UPI. UPI does not have any cost, inbuilt cost as it is. So basically cost benefit along with the customer benefits. And that is what has changed the game for a lot of people, and it's true for the gaming industry as well.
Oh, great. Anything you want to add to, Manisha?
I think just more as a principle, I think again, innovations that truly solve problems, I think, become, big and I think that's how they do. So, I mean, even if you think, you look at things like just ordering in and you look at, your Swiggies and Zomatos, I think they've fundamentally changed how we live today, and they've fundamentally solved a problem for, for so many people as to, the complexity of food. And I think it's those kind of innovations which, to my mind, become the big game changers for society, for how all of us are living every day. So sometimes the problem to be solved may be quite small, but I think the solutions are really, really powerful.
Yeah, and I think if you're asking from a marketing perspective, I think there are lots of great examples, and I think today what we're really seeing is a combination of creativity with AI and being able to personalize their experience, right? And I think that's truly where a lot of that innovation is coming through as well. Maybe we have time for one last question. Yes, Karthik.
Hi. So I've been a gamer for more than 3 decades now, and one of the things which people always associate with gaming is violence, and parents especially think it's negative for kids, and in general people have a negative perception of gaming. So from a marketing perspective, I think yours is a different thing, but how do you mentioned content, right? Like how do you kind of deal with that? How do you deal with that gray area where, how do you communicate that gaming is actually good? And from your the ASCI perspective, how do you kind of deal with gray areas like this? Because I can for a fact tell you that gaming is amazing. It's changed my life, but it's extremely difficult to convince people who are convinced otherwise. So that's the best.
Sure. I can go first. Yeah. So I think again the principle of communication and whatever category, and of course there are certain categories that come with a certain cultural baggage, in terms of our perceptions, etc. And I think the key thing is that are you providing enough information to people to make their choice? At the end of the day, so long as it's a category that is permitted in the country, all you're saying is that make sure that consumers have the right information to decide whether it is for them or not. So particularly in the case of, let's say, real money gaming, etc. I mean, we've said that, while brands like to talk about the wins, and the fact that there is a risk and there is a downside to it also needs to be told to the consumers, and then it's finally, it's for the consumers to decide whether that is for them or not. So I think it is just, to my mind, a certain degree of maturity in the communication, and to, again, as I said, make sure that you are kind of standing, in it for the long term. And also to remember, that basically it's not just consumers who are watching your advertising. I mean, it is a whole bunch of other stakeholders, and how do you kind of make sure that, they are engaged in your programs as well. So I think, that's pretty much how you would look at a category which has some inherent risk in terms of the way that it's perceived, but just giving the right kind of information to people, I think, is what you can do at the most. I mean, finally, you can't control everything.
Yeah. So, adding on to absolutely, that what Manisha says is spot on. And on top of that, about violence, etc., that you were talking about. So there is always an age gating that you do. So there is a way to figure out, if that person, at our level, we ask them for a PAN card to prove what age they are. So we cross match that. If somebody who's underage is trying to play a game, we prevent that at our level. And the information that you give on the website as well as your app, tells the truth. So we would never promote our game saying that you can make a living out of it, because as Manisha was clearly pointing out, there is a risk element involved to that. So we'll never be, we will never see, any of those gaming guys going and telling this could be your, this could help you earn your daily, bread and butter. So those are the things which we clearly steer away from and say that this is a game, this is for entertainment, play it like an entertainment. Don't try and make a career out of it. There are, in advanced countries like Japan, Singapore, we have people who have made careers out of gaming, but India is still a little away from, that stage where, the awareness needs to be raised to that level where they can, make a difference between this is a career, this is an entertainment, and where, those lines lie. So till then we have to do a bit of gatekeeping there, and so that, nothing slips. We'll try and see that nothing slips through the cracks. So from a marketing perspective, we try and say, guard people's interest wherever possible, and put our gates right there, with government policy formation coming in and ASCI helping us. So we'll try and adhere to best possible information that we can give to our players.
No, great. I think that's all the time we have today. But thank you so much, Sumanta, Manisha, and Arthy. Last message from all of us is, continue innovating, be creative, but have those guardrails that make sense. So thank you so much, all of you. And
thank you.